Monday, January the 13th. We're ready to talk football. And there he is on the screen and in your ears. It is Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine. It is a great time of year, Scar, if you like football. How you doing?
Hey, Denny, it's a great time of year if you're Michigan, man. I mean, we've got a basketball coach who brought in great coaches, great players, and I'll give Big Ward Manuel, we got to give him a high five. The big fella went out and got the right guy. We're rolling. Dusty May is the dog. And then, Sharon is getting it done. We're bringing players in, bringing transfers in. We've got momentum. Michigan people got to be fired up about where we're headed. We got Joe Lynn making it happen. People are stepping up. We got the Lions making it happen. Denny, life is good.
You ain't kidding all of that. Michigan basketball, you're right. I mean, if you can't get a smile on your face and watching this particular team, they're out of sight. We will get to them. You mentioned the Lions. We know who they're going to play in the divisional round. It'll be the Commanders. Some people call them the Commies. We'll see what Scar thinks of the opponent and the Lions' path to the Super Bowl. This is still a little weird, but a lot of fun to say. But we will start with Michigan and their transfers. This week, last time, I was saying, man, everything looks pretty good. Not really to complain about. And there are some folks that were like, how about the transfer portal? Michigan needs to get a big-time wideout. They need how come they're not just bringing more people in? And over the weekend, they bring in two. Let's start with the wide receiver that they bring in. Scar, Anthony Simpson, 5'11", from UMass. So do you are there things to like that jump out when you looked into Simpson coming to Michigan?
I haven't looked at his film, but he played, Kasulu was there, and Don Brown was, coached him, he recruited him. So he must be a hell of an athlete. For some reason, the big boys passed on him. He ended up at UMass. I don't know his history, but, Kasulu knows this kid. So he was in, on that staff. So he's probably a team guy, a tough guy, blocking guy, Michigan type receiver. And, Denny, I think that we're going to have 105 guys there playing on that roster. I think the walk-on thing is a past. I think everybody is in the past. Everybody's getting something, and they're paying for their school at least.
Right.
But I think Sharon Moore, and I think these guys are taking the attitude like, you know what? I am going to bring in 105 of the most talented, badass, tough, physical, athletic, ball catching, ball throwing, kicking, punting dudes I can find, and then let them go at it and compete. And that's that's what I would do too. You get, and that's, like I said, the word of the day is compete down there at Schembecker Hall. So this kid, we know about him. We know his attitude, and they wouldn't bring. They are not bringing a kid. They're not bringing him to Michigan if they think he's not going to. If he can't start, they're not wasting time on guys that they don't think are going to be able to come in there and win the job. So that's the deal with him.
Yeah, I would say clearly it was obvious that they thought that they needed more bodies in the wide receiver room. They were attached to a wide receiver from Yale. They were in on a kid from Clemson that was a wideout that went elsewhere. I think Appy State, that there was some interest there, maybe somewhere out west as well. But I think what you say is, when you're talking about, we could just look at these guys on paper, and even if we're looking at film, Steve Kasula, Michigan's tight end coach, he was the offensive coordinator at UMass when Anthony Simpson was there. He'll know a little bit about what makes him tick. And Don Brown, you're right. Don Brown is a friend of the program. Don Brown, I'm pretty sure that Don Brown was on the phone either with Kasula or Sharon Moore, maybe with both, and said, hey, this is what we think of Simpson. He left the program after 2-3 games last year. And, that does put, I don't know if it's a red flag, but at least puts up like your eyebrows, like, hey, what happened there? But they will know what happened there, and they'll feel comfortable with it, on the Simpson kid. He's 5'11". I think if Michigan fans, if he was 6'4", they might be like, all right. But remember, they got McCully from Indiana, Morgan and Moore and O'Leary. Whatever you think of those guys, Bell. They've got Goodwin and Stewart, who were true freshmen this year. Amarian Walker still with them, I think. They got Browder from Florida. Marsh and Washington. I mean, that's a lot of names. There's a lot of wide receivers there. Can they find? They only need 3, right? I mean, you want some depth, but you need a big 3 out of those.
Denny, I think you want diversity in your receiver crew. You want guys that you can run bubble and they can make guys miss. You can run the jet sweep with them. You can do, a guy that can make guys miss in space. And then it's good to have the big 6'4" kid you can throw the fade to on the goal line, when it's 3rd or 4th and 4, whatever you need to throw the jump ball to. So I think you need diversity in your receiver room. And, this is a good thing. And again, I didn't know about his history with 3 games, but Kasulu does. He knows what happened there. He has a relationship with them. So he's going to be in there at Schembeckler competing like the rest of them.
I think Scott makes an interesting point that of Josh Wallace, who went to UMass, and Amir Hall from Albany were 2 great under-the-radar pickups the last 2 years. So he's going to give Michigan the benefit of the doubt. He's not talking about Simpson. He's talking about the defensive back of Caleb Anderson, who we'll get to in a moment. But Scott also, this is a point which is an interesting one to think about. He says, we don't have a single elite receiver. Meanwhile, Ohio State has 3 first-round NFL draft choices at receiver, and it's actually been like that for a few years now. I mean, there's nobody more loaded at receiver than Ohio State, so that's something to think about. I would say that the developing passing game from Michigan of all these wide receivers that we just mentioned, including Simpson and Bryce Underwood, and how quickly these guys develop that passing game is going to be one of the big tales of how far Michigan goes this year.
Yeah, Danny, listen, there's no surprise that there's receivers that may be reluctant to come when we run the ball so much. People know what we do, man. We go to Penn State, we run 7 offensive linemen and throw the ball 8 times last year. So listen, but maybe we're going to open it up more. Maybe that's what they're selling these kids and telling these kids. And Ohio State's got those receivers, but we looked at the film and they don't block like our guys. And listen, a Michigan receiver is going to be a special type of kid, and he has to understand he's going to have to stick his head in somebody's chest and block a lot more than maybe on an Ohio State kid. Look, we have to recruit better there. We have to find a kid that is an athletic kid that can make guys miss, the big time kid that knows he's not going to get a lot of passes thrown to him, maybe as much.
On the screen, you can take a look at the additions that Michigan has right now on the offensive side from the portal. It includes a quarterback, Keene from Fresno State, Haynes, the running back from Alabama, then the 2 wide receivers, now McCully from IU, Simpson from UMass, the pickup over the weekend, and then the 2, I think, interior offensive linemen, Norton from Cal Poly and Hatter from right here in the state of Michigan, Ferris State.
Denny, there's a Louisiana kid we just signed. We just got committed a defensive back from Louisiana. There he is, right? Oh, okay. I didn't know you had him up ready to roll. So there's a tall kid. There's the 6'3" kid. So when people want to throw that fade, but Louisiana has played good defense, and who knows why this kid got overlooked, but he's proved himself. And that secondary room is loaded, man. Loaded with talent. Coach Morgan has got players to work with, man. So if I'm, I think Sharon Moore is, like I said it last week, he's just saying to his position coach, look, position coaches, look, my job is to load your room with talent, and then you pick the best guys to play. Bo let his assistant coaches decide who played. He didn't determine who played it. My coach always said that he determined who played at the outside linebacker position. So I think Sharon Moore's doing the same thing. But he's loading up each room with players. And these guys got to, coach them up and get the best ones to step on that field.
You mentioned Lamar Morgan. He is a Louisiana alum. So, and I would think that he would have had, and, this is Anderson's a DB and he's the DB coach. So I would think that, this at least has his fingerprints all over it. So I would think that he would have been involved in landing Anderson from Louisiana. You wanted to make a point about, as we look at all of Michigan's defensive portal ads thus far, about Michigan's staff.
Well, Denny, I'm just wondering that we haven't lost. The only coach that's gone, is our quarterback coach that got canned.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was just wondering if anybody's going to be leaving, and it appears that nobody's leaving, which is to just lose one coach. It's not always that common because there's so much movement in college football. So I think it's a good thing if our staff stays intact. That's a good sign. I think that's a good sign that look, obviously we pay guys a lot of money, so they don't want to leave Michigan.
No,
but it's a good sign that Sharon Moore has faith in them. The defensive staff is intact. Nobody's leaving. I think those things are important, man, because I just, it's important to play for the same coach the whole time. But then getting back to that offensive, some of those offensive transfer guys, we brought some offensive linemen in. I'm wondering, you got Norton and Hattar from Ferris State. It appears that Gio's coming back. Crippen's coming back. Sprague played well. Link, listen, it's going to be, there's one position open, the left guard. There's one position open. There's going to be serious competition. And some of these guys are going to have their feelings hurt, because, unless they're planning on playing, but anyway, I don't know what they told a kid like Norton or Hattar. Are you going to compete with Sprague at tackle? You're going to compete with Link at tackle? Do we think you're both going to compete at guard for that guard position? So it's interesting. Again, it gets back to this Sharon Moore trying to load that room up for Grant and say, listen, I'm trying to bring you some players, man. I don't want any excuses about your position group. He's trying to prevent what happened last year with our quarterback room. He's got to load that room up so that, there's no excuses. Get back to that defensive side, Denny.
All right. The defensive side of the ball. It's
I tell you, a lot of good players at the defensive tackle, and I felt that was other than quarterback, that's my biggest concern, and it'll be interesting to see there. I'm real high I'm a little higher on the Clemson kid than I am on Payne from Alabama. I'm just keeping it real there. I watched his film. He's athletic as hell, and but hey, they're going to compete, and again with coaching and scheme. Payne might be a better fit for what we're asking our guys to do. So, a lot of and Bowles will see, and that's a position that if they're going to move Big Barham out to the edge, they've got to have guys that they feel comfortable with at that linebacker position.
Scar, it's an uncomfortable feeling for the championship game for a lot of Michigan fans. Ohio State ends up doubling up Texas 28-14, and you had Notre Dame sliding by Penn State, which sets up the Buckeyes and Irish for the championship game. How do you feel about it?
Well, it doesn't help us in recruiting. You don't want these guys to win. I never want them to win. Notre Dame, we're always going to recruit against them. They're a national program like us. They got money. They got big, rich alum like we do. So I'm not interested in either of those guys being in it. We're better off, with some SEC team. To keep it real with you, we don't want those guys winning because I was that guy going on a recruiting trip, to Michigan when they just won the Rose Bowl, and obviously money matters now, but winning matters too to a recruit. You want to go to big games and play on national television. So we don't want them guys. We don't want those two because we got to compete against them. So it's probably better if Notre Dame wins for us because that's that. But looking at their games, the Ohio State Texas game. I mean, it's funny. I talked to a guy, Ed Warner, guy I got to know a little bit, former Michigan coached at Ohio State. He talked. He said, Texas, they can't run their short yardage offense. They just can't get it done. First and goal, Texas had the ball to tie the game up, and they get stuffed. They can't run the football. I mean, we had a hell of a time running it against Ohio State down there, but we slammed it in there. We found a way to slam it in there on them. Texas just said, Sark just said, the hell with it. I can't get in on these guys. You know what I mean? He tried one time, he got stuffed, and then he tries throwing and a bunch of other happy horse shit. And you got to be able to run the ball down there. But that was disappointing. That game was a lot closer. I thought I took Texas with the points. But, you got to be able to.
Yeah, it was a lot closer. I mean, they were down there in the series that you're talking about, looking to tie up the game, and a fumble went the other way to made it, that was a 14-point
swing. Because he's throwing and he's rolling out. He can't score from the 1 yard line.
I mean, they ran up the middle. When they threw, they had success, though. They had the pass interference. The one that killed them is they tried to kick it out and run a sweep and ended up losing 5 yards on it. So then, they were behind. You can't run it then. So then they had to throw, and it was Panic City and all of that. And, the two teams, I say overall, there's, for me, it's no fun watching both of those teams in there. I hear what you're saying, and I think everybody will root for Notre Dame over Ohio State, even though it's distasteful. But Michigan just won it last year, so they had to sit there and watch Michigan do it, and they didn't like it, and that. The other thing is that the way things have changed, it's pro-Michigan. For the last, for the 21st century, the rules have not been pro-Michigan. Michigan could have done everything in the world with these recruits that would come in, and then at the last second, they would leave because other teams were paying them. Well, they can't do that. Michigan now can fight fire with fire. So overall, with the new rules and everything, sure, watch the championship game, spit at your TV and everything else, but Michigan's in good standing with how things are working with the rules right now, and there's never been a better time to be a Michigan football fan.
Denny, Ohio State still has an advantage against us academically. They can bring in inferior students, even though we might be offering the star tight end from wherever. We might not be able to get him in, or he might have to give up a bunch of his credits. So the playing field is not equal from that standpoint. And our people need to understand that. Michigan is still Michigan academically. And I told you, a great, smart coach told me a long time ago about Michigan State, why we had to keep them down. He said this: they can get them in and they can keep them eligible. Okay, so academics, it's a factor in the transfer deal. Let me talk about Notre Dame Penn State real quick.
All right.
I actually I took Notre Dame there, and
so did I. You told me to take Notre Dame.
Yeah, the game did not play out. I thought that I'm a big Al Golden fan. I think Al Golden is a hell of a defensive coordinator. I think he's a smart defensive coordinator. I thought he would do have a little edge over the Penn State offensive people, but Tom Allen did a great job, the Penn State defensive coordinator. And I thought that Riley Leonard would outplay Aller. Okay, and then Leonard ended up throwing the 2 picks, but Aller had the one at the end. The kid made a great play on it. But those were 2 very well coached football teams, and it come down to a turnover at the end. But Ohio State, Notre Dame, Danny, my thoughts on that game. These 2 teams they played twice in the last 4 or 5 years, right? In both of those games were battles and wars that came down to the end, right? Low scoring games, right? Did Ohio State and Notre Dame play within the last couple of years each other?
Yeah. 2 years
okay,
ago.
I think 9.5 points is way too many. Okay, I think I took Notre Dame with the points. I think Al Golden's a hell of a defensive coach. These guys have played a lot of football games now, 16, 17 games, and I think he will slow down. What Ohio State's doing, just like Texas. I think Notre Dame's defense with Al Golden, it might be better than Texas. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I would jump in and say, Penn State's, when people are talking about Michigan's wide receivers, Penn State's wide receivers didn't have a catch in that game, and Drew Aller was off the entire game. So I know they had 2 timeouts, and the clock would stop, and so you'd say, yeah, why not try to get into field goal position? But you have to know your quarterback. That quarterback looked like he was shaky. I mean, you're going to go, I would, James Franklin, are you going to take your running game? Look, that's what got him to where they were at. You're going to tell me you're going to get to the end and say, oh, people would have criticized him if he played for overtime and lost. If I was James Franklin, I'd say, well, you must not have been watching our passing game. To have your quarterback who's been shaky all game throwing the ball over the middle late. I mean, that was a mistake by Franklin. People are trying to say, no, you've got the 2 timeouts. You got to go down there. And no, that's what the coach is for. The coach screwed that up. That loss is on James Franklin.
Yeah, Eller missed a lot of, that interception was one thing. And he missed a lot of passes though. And then the interception at the end. But anyway, I like Notre Dame with the points. That's my take on that. Danny, I watched the All-Star game. I think it was the Under Armour. We had a couple kids playing. Babalola was playing, the big tackle, our kid.
Yeah.
He looked good, athletic, just like just like his highlight film. But I was really impressed with Marshall, the defensive tackle.
Oh, Nathan Marshall?
Nathan Marshall he's a fast, athletic kid. I tried to get a feel for what he might have reminded me of. He looks more like an edge player athletically. Unless they're planning on putting a lot of weight on him. But he is a fast, athletic kid. A Derek Moore with maybe a little more speed, a little more quickness. So he's a kid and he's a tough, mean kid. So I can see why he was highly recruited. And I was impressed big time with him. He's a kid that is, if they're going to play him inside, he's going to have to get a little bigger. But he's definitely a kid that can move around, man.
I like to hear it that you were watching those games. You had a final thought on Michigan.
Well, let's see. I mean, Denny, we're going to look at some other players and keep evaluating the roster. Alex Orji going to UNLV. I think that's a good place for him. Dan Mullen, coach Tim Tebow. This is the kind of kid he wants. He wants a guy that, I hope he has a good career there. He coached Dak, but my thoughts on Michigan, man, Denny, things are positive. Our staff is intact. Our players are they're in the weight room now and going and competing. And, I think we're in a real good place, our football program.
Hey, Scar, give me a thought about the legendary coach, Bill McCartney, who coached at Michigan, went to Colorado, won a national championship. I can always remember you for, saying McCartney's Monsters. And he's from downriver, Riverview, Michigan, where I think also Lloyd Carr was from. So kind of, I don't know if you call it a cradle of coaches, but from the same area.
Yeah, Danny, Riverview, Lloyd Carr, Woody Woodenhofer. Then there's a great high school coach, Irv Ziegler, who went and built Olivet. I mean, great. Irv Ziegler was outstanding. And Coach Mack was brilliant. I had 1 year with Coach Mack. He was the defensive coordinator my freshman year. If someone says about Coach Mack, first thing I say is intelligent, highly, highly intelligent, brilliant man, brilliant mind, great communicator. Great communicator individually, and then to a group. I could see why, I got recruited a little bit by him. You get recruited by the whole staff at times, and I spent some time with him, but he was a great, but my first time I met Coach Mack or saw Coach Mack, then Michigan had the greatest high school football camp in the country. There were over 3,000 kids that came to that camp every year, and the defensive coordinator who was at Michigan always ran it. So Coach Mack ran it. When he was a coordinator, Jimmy Herman ran it. Lloyd Carr ran it for a while. But that was always the deal. But I remember hearing Coach Mack when I was a junior in high school, what the mind can conceive and believe, the body will achieve. And he had, just a great motivational speaker. But that was one quote I always remember from Coach Mack. And Denny, listen, when you're an 18, 19-year-old kid, you're coached by all these guys. You get up there in Ann Arbor, all these smart coaches, and you don't realize it at the time how good you're being coached, how smart these guys are. You don't realize it. But then after I was playing and coached, then when you're 30, 40 years old, you look back and you say, if someone was to pick a guy from our staff, and there's a lot of guys that did great things, but and take a guy and drop him down into Boulder, Colorado, a 1-11 crummy football program, and say which guy is going to build that thing. Coach Mack's the guy, man, because he could recruit, he could coach. He was funny. Then a leader you got all those traits, man. He was a funny guy. He was a smart guy. He could, you don't want to piss him off though, but he could motivate. He had a mean side to him, a funny side to him, and just like any great leader, you got all that. And I have nothing but respect for him. And I was just privileged to have 1 year as just a little peon freshman who never played, but sat there and watched him lead the defense.
Bill McCartney passed away just a couple of days ago in Boulder. He was 84 years old. I like hearing that from you, Scar. We're going on and talk a little basketball. Dusty May talked today. He had a game yesterday against Washington, which he won handily, his team. And here in the new year, you want to follow basketball and talk basketball all day, all night. Well, you could do the same thing that you're doing with football and now basketball by joining the Maize and Blue Review. Why not join the Maize and Blue Review with all of us over at Michigan Rivals? Go to michigan.rivals.com. You can get that instant access. And Dusty May was talking today about Scar, where Michigan is at and how they're playing. They're undefeated in the Big Ten. They're 13-3. And I asked him if he was, how he'd like to be in one of the top stories in college basketball at the midway point. And he said, he thinks that, they weren't thinking about, they're, looking for Minnesota and everything else that they have coming up. They like how they're playing, but he was thinking that the pollsters didn't like Michigan as much as the computers. Ken Palm has Michigan in the top 10, where the pollsters, we get a new poll coming out. They hadn't, just inside the top 25, but this team is, they're entertaining, and they are one of the better stories in college basketball. They have the 2 7-footers that people are having a hard time dealing with Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf, dubbed Area 51. Golden's 50 and Wolf's 1. You put those two together, and it's a tough thing to figure out for opponents.
Denny, I have great respect for Coach. I'm watching him. I played basketball. I actually coached basketball too. So I got a little sense about what he's doing there. And there's so many things about this guy that impressed me. He brought in his kind of guys mentally too. Yes, they're good players. One of the biggest challenges with a guy like that, coaching that many talented players, is getting them all to buy in as from a team standpoint. It's not about me, it's about we. They all understand their roles, and it appears like he pounds it. He's got them believing in that. I watch the bench, Denny. I watch the interaction on the bench, and I don't see nasty faces. I don't see pissed off guys. I see a sense of supporting each other. And Denny, I'm really impressed with the way they play defense. One of the things about not being the most athletic, look, they got a bunch of guys everybody in that team can make a free throw. He didn't bring in guys that can't score or at least shoot free throws. And some of the players we have aren't the most athletic, and that sometimes hurts you on defense. But we play so smart on defense. We communicate. And it doesn't hurt to have big Vlad. Vlad, initially watching the beginning of the year, I wasn't that high on him. But Denny, there's two things that dude does. He protects the rim. He protects the rim, and he makes free throws. He makes free throws. Look, we had Big Reed over here last year. You know, we're cheered for him. He's over at UConn now. But how many times, and Reed protected the rim, but how many times did he get a rebound and get hacked? And then he goes to the line, and you're just like, oh, man. You know what I mean? It's like we're looking at 50% shooting at the line. So I think he built a great roster. And those guys are staying together, and they're great. They're fun to watch. The spacing offensively and how they just seem to be in the right spot, you know. And I couldn't be happier with where we are as a basketball program.
Yeah, I think you're right on top of it. He said today, you know, you can't believe the hype, you know, if you're the Michigan team with now people talking in glowing terms about you. But I'm with you on Vlad Golden. When I first saw him, I thought, all right, you know, he's big. He's 7'1". But he's one of the better players in the country. He's one of the best players in the Big Ten, and he's dominating. People, I think, watched him a little bit, but if you're watching every game, if you're watching recently, he has kicked it up. He's, it was against UCLA. Jalen Rose was the color commentator, you know, and Bill Walton went to UCLA, and in that game, you know, Golden was leaving. He took the ball from the free throw line and went in and dunked. He took another one. He had a 2-hand dunk. Then he was shooting a 3, and Jalen said he's playing like Bill Walton. Well, that's how Bill Walton used to play. He dominated USC. He is he's slipping on these pick and rolls. He can score with either hand. It's nice to be 7'1" and athletic, but he's also has the ability to score. And you're talking about, you know, defensively, and he knows how to control the ball. And
well, he protects the rim, Danny. A lot of our guys get beat at times, or I think Coach May understands that, and they pressure, and they know that when you have the rim protector there, that's always a factor defensively. And let me just say this too about that basketball team. It's not one guy. In no way, shape, or form is it one guy. Donaldson is smart. Look, we turn the ball over. It pisses me off. I shake my head like, what the hell? It's not worth the risky pass at times. Sometimes, whatever. So we were better the other day against Washington with the turnovers, but we've got guys that can play. Any guy on that roster is capable of leading you and having you know, a 25-point game. Every one of them can do that. Donaldson was unbelievable out west. So yes, he built a great roster. They play as a team, and they're smart, and the future's good, man. I'm watching these Spartans over there, man, and they're coming. We're headed for 2 big games with those clowns.
A collision course with MSU. I love it. And Michigan will play again Thursday. They'll be at Minnesota, and it couldn't be going any better. You're right about that.
What was Antoine's question?
He was making the point that when you get 2 big men playing the pick and roll game, that's tough to stop, let alone 2 little guys playing it. They don't understand small ball anymore. So, yeah, I mean, the pick and roll, you know, when I was growing up, you'd have Karl Malone and John Stockton. They ran that. You had Malone who could set the mean pick, and you know how to slip. And then you'd get the ball, and he could go and score on anyone. And Stockton was the deft passer as the point guard. I mean, you got Danny Wolf at 7 feet. You've got to have, anybody can run the pick and roll, but you really need a great passer and a great shooter for the guy that is, the one delivering the ball. And then the guy that's setting the pick, and it's a skill being able to find the open spaces. And Vlad can catch the ball and dunk it. You can throw it to him on the move, and he's got the ability to score with the left and the right hand. You know, he can dunk on you. I mean, it's just a real bind for teams. I mean, you just look in the last couple games, you look at these teams' other front lines. They got a guy 6'11". Washington had a guy 6'10", 6'8", 6'8". They're in trouble. I mean, if you can't put guys out there to guard Golden and Wolf, you're in big trouble. And most of these teams don't have the size and the ability to most of the teams in the Big Ten. There's a few in the country you start looking at, but it gives Michigan something that other teams don't have. And you're right, Scar. When you look at the 5, And then, they're bringing in Cheddar, who any team in the country would love to have coming off the bench. That's nice. I think if there's a spot, the Reuben Jones as the first guard coming in, I mean, that gets you to 7. And Jones could probably play a little bit better. Maybe he will. They think he will. So, it's
the pick and roll with 2 7-footers is you've got the high lob is always there too.
Yeah.
Danny, and then you kick. He knows what he's doing. I love the spacing offensively. I love what we do offensively. We have answers for everything people are doing, and there's just good ball movement. We've got guys that can shoot the 3. Burnett, I'm so happy for Burnett, man. Highly recruited kid. Was at a couple schools, and he is playing great basketball, man. And it's again, Denny. It gets back to that old thing. I always talk about. A guy's a certain kind of player for playing for such and such coach, and he's kind of okay, or he sucks, or this, that, or whatever. And then he comes with the right coach, and all of a sudden he's good. All of a sudden, all these guys are good because they're with the right coach and the right system. Okay, so we're confident of what's going on. Then one other thing of note is Tom Allen. I just read is going to Clemson as a defensive coordinator. So
correct, right?
Dabo, and the people around America know that Tom Allen's. I've been preaching about that guy for a long time. That he's a damn good coach. Just trying to win in Indiana back in the day before the NIL was tough. So that's actually good for Michigan. That we don't have to compete against that guy.
The new top 25 college basketball rankings are out. This is before we switch gears and go and talk a little bit more football. Michigan has moved up from 24 to 20. That's up 4 spots. I thought they would move up in front of Illinois because Michigan has fewer losses than Illinois. They went to USC and beat the Trojans in California, and USC just went to Champaign and lost to Illinois, but Michigan stays there at 20. Michigan State is up 4 spots all the way to 12. But the computers, as Dusty was saying today, they like Michigan more than the pollsters because Michigan's a top 10 team when it comes to a service like KenPom.com, which a lot of people.
Illinois. The big thing with winning the league, the Big Ten championship is like who do you get? Who do you play twice? And one of the good things for us is Illinois and Michigan State play twice. Now we got to play Purdue twice, so that's huge. So we need Illinois to beat Michigan State at least one time.
Yeah, it's fun talking about the possibility of winning a Big Ten championship. It's also fun to talk about winning a Super Bowl. And after what the Lions did last year, winning 2 playoff games, then they come back this year, they get the number 1 seed. It has felt almost like they're destined to do this. And then they lost to the Bills and had so many injuries that felt like everything had fallen apart. But then they won the 3 games, and they've got the 1 seed. And now here they are, Scar. They will take on the Washington Commanders Saturday night at Ford Field. The Commanders get the win down in Tampa yesterday. The Lions are a big 8.5-point favorite. What are your thoughts as you just take a look at this matchup and the Lions overall?
Well, Denny, I did not want to play Tampa Bay. I don't want to play against Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield and Tampa came into Ford Field and beat us early in the year. Baker, I was preaching it all along. I don't want to play Baker Mayfield. I don't want to play Todd Bowles as a defensive coach. Todd Bowles is a damn good defensive football coach, and Baker Mayfield's good. So they're gone. They're done. Okay, now we got to play Quinn. Okay, Quinn was the defensive coordinator at Dallas last year. We scored and moved the ball against them. I would much rather go against the Washington defense than the Tampa Bay defense. Or maybe also even the Minnesota Viking defense. I don't know a lot about how well the Rams are doing defensively, but I'd rather go against Washington's defense than Tampa or Minnesota. So that's that part of it. Now,
I think everybody's right with you. When you're looking at the 3 possible matchups, Minnesota or the Rams, I think that, and then the Washington Commanders, I think the first choice for everybody would have been Washington. Even though Detroit has gone out there and they've beat Minnesota twice, and then they've beat also the Rams too. You know what kind of quarterback that the Rams have, and they've got some players on the defensive line, a rookie in Verse. But the Vikings, even though the Lions handled them, the familiarity and just how well they've played overall, and a rookie quarterback. And the other thing is the Washington defense. You said that you would want to go against them. They're ranked 30th against the run. The Lions should be able to control the ball. The only thing I don't want heading into this game, I want the Lions, it sounds like, yeah, no duh. They need to get into the fourth quarter and have a comfortable lead. You don't want Jaden Daniels, the way that certain guys, you say he's clutch. He is clutch. He is calm. He's comfortable. And he does not play like a rookie. And he has made so many big plays in the fourth quarter, whether it's on fourth down, whether it's a Hail Mary. You don't want him in a one-score game of the fourth quarter. But I think the Lions can get a comfortable lead being able to run the ball on the Commanders Saturday.
Yeah, it's all if you can do that. But, yeah, in terms of defending them, listen, this kid has started 4 years of college, man. A couple of Arizona. He started a lot of big-time football games. And he has really improved. He started 16, 17 games now, man. So he ain't no damn rookie anymore, Denny. He ain't no rookie. He's an athletic kid. And that's the big thing that concerns me is his ability to keep plays alive. Our crowd has to be just straight up nasty and just crush their ability to communicate offensively and just hammer this kid. And so our crowd has to be a factor. And I don't look. I would much rather always defend the stiffs that can't move. The Sam Darnold. Listen, they play great defense. Minnesota's better on defense, but I'd rather defend Minnesota's offense than this Jaden Daniels kid. So anyway, I feel good. 8.5. I think that's a lot of points.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of points too. But we saw what Buffalo was able to do as a big time favorite. You saw what Baltimore was able to do as a big time favorite. I'm thinking that Detroit should be able to handle that. The defense still is a little bit. You feel like woo, but and you don't want to go too much back. But you feel good about how the defense came together. Anzalone came back, but the way they played against the Vikings and that the Sunday night game, I think gives you a jolt of confidence if you're a Lions fan. About
Aaron Glenn is unbelievably. What a great job that guy's done with all these bodies missing this, that, whatever. Now look, Danny, we've also gone against Cliff Kingsbury. Okay, we went down to Arizona and had good success against what he wants to do offensively. So those things matter, man. Believe me, you coach against a guy. I told you there's the matchup thing and there's the comfort level, and and we've done pretty good. So I like the fact that we've went against Clint and what he does offensively with the little guy out there, and we won out there.
Little guy.
What the hell's his name? Murray. And then we've scored a lot of points against Dallas when Quinn was there, and I like that we got 13 days off. I'm glad that's just the perfect amount of days that we need. So we'll have an extra day against in that the final game too. Then to get the Philly winner. So
Scar, what'd you go to? You went to that Dallas game,
yeah,
right?
I went last year to that the big fella game. The what's his name? Big Dan Skipper. I was there right on that goal line, man, going crazy.
When he reported in, and then they lost the game.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to see him in the playoffs, and it didn't happen. And of course, the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs this year. What about Scar? If somebody said, "Let's go standing room only Saturday night, 650," you go?
Hey Ferris, I got a 75-incher, man. I'm posting up, man.
75.
I'll sit home and I like my replay, my DVR. I'm a nut. People don't like watching games with me because I'm rewinding everything and yelling at this guy and that guy.
I didn't know you had a 75-inch TV, Scar.
Oh yeah, I'm locked in, Danny. We don't mess around, man.
I complain a lot about streaming, like for Peacock, and I was thinking people would say, well, you're old, but I can handle the replay button on cable. I mean, I could go back 5 seconds. I can go back 20. I can handle it. Sometimes I go slow motion. I'm like you. I can deal with that controller. The other controller that I have for Peacock, you can't go back. It's so hard to do. So I'm going back 5 minutes. I don't know when it's live. When I'm going to the game, sometimes it's like a black screen for like 60 seconds. And I'm thinking, did I go somewhere else? Or are they going to show me the game? And sometimes I'm sitting there, it's another screen. The other time I've gone somewhere else. They need to fix that. I'm telling you, man, they want to.
They want you to watch commercials, Denny. That's what they're doing.
It's fine that they can watch the commercials, but they need to do a better job with their product overall. It's horse blank.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as the Lions, Denny, we need our crowd to be straight up nasty and try to rattle their young quarterback here. Scar, we need to hang out and grab a beer. I'm with you, brother. We've got to do that one day, man. Antoine, the Michigan man right there, Danny.
Well, hey, I told everyone once we got to 5,000 subscribers, I was going to go throw a big party and do one of the pods on the road. But as we have found out, most of the people, they're all down in Florida. They're in California. There's not many sitting around here around the way. Antoine's one that I think is from around the way. We actually could get together and watch a game with. So we just might have to make to the spring game and either before or after have something where that we could get up and maybe I'll watch the games together.
Anyway, Denny, I don't know what else is going on. It's all positive for Michigan right now, and people up here are feeling good about things.
Yeah, everything. You have to take in the championship game, which is distasteful. So you got to be able to deal with that, and it is hard for some people that live with the, and everyone to a degree. They like Michigan and they like the misery of the other teams. Well, you don't have the misery of the other teams, or you got Ohio State, so you got to be able to deal with it. It could be tough for folks, but when that's the toughest thing, I think realizing that Michigan is in a good spot themselves and that the field has leveled. I know the transfer credits that you mentioned still not 100% complete, but I like the position that Michigan is in. I love their last 3 games. I like what they're doing in recruiting, and the basketball has been a super surprise, and it's made for a fabulous January, and who knows what's going to take us into February and March. So.
Hey, Danny, one last note. Listen, man, I'm sure people are still watching Jim Harbaugh. We want to see him succeed. That's my teammate. That's my friend. And he just doesn't have the run game like he had at San Fran quite yet. Okay, he needs to Jim wants that nasty power play, and he's just not getting it done quite yet. But cheering for him. He had a good year, improvement. His quarterback wasn't perfect. But I like seeing, Michigan guys. Mike Elston, Michigan guy, coaching the D-line down there. Klink is down there coaching them up. And, there are a lot of guys down there that were cheering for Jim.
I hear you. Scar, great job. It's always great talking with you. Look forward to doing it the next time we bring you on.
All right, Denny, go blue.
There he is. Scar.